Thanks for joining us for the KOHO 101 Community Connection Podcast, a look at business in the greater Wenatchee area.
It's the KOHO Morning Show. Great to have you with us on this Tuesday set. It's the 15th of June, 2021, and time for another one of our Community Connections podcast series installments with the Wenatchee Valley Chamber of Commerce. We're actually kicking them off today. Well, we sort of already kicked them off last week with Shiloh Burgess, who's here back once again with us today, Executive Director of the Chamber, explaining this segment to us a little bit in more detail. But today we're actually going to get one of those great legacy businesses in-house and going to be talking with them today about their time here in the Wenatchee Valley and their legacy in general. And today we have Josh Tarr from American Shoe Shop in-house with us, along with Shiloh. And Josh, Shiloh, I appreciate your being here. Thanks.
Well, thanks for having us.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
Yeah, absolutely. So Josh and I have already discovered something we have as a commonality. We like clothes. So he's made a sale for one of his favorite shirt companies already today. So we're talking clothes already. We may as well talk shoes, too.
I think talking shoes would be awesome. I mean, shoes are my favorite. I love shoes. I can't have enough shoes. Nobody should come to my closet and see all the shoes that I have, from dress shoes to outdoor shoes to, I wonder when I'll find the right outfit to wear with those shoes. But you sell some pretty amazing shoes. And how many years now has American Shoe Shop been in operation?
Well, we are celebrating our 101st year. I'm personally celebrating my 25th year at the helm, and I just couldn't be happier to say we made it through the 100th.
Wow.
Right?
So.
And that is quite an accomplishment. Never knew how much we would appreciate 101 until we learned the trials of 100. So
perfect place for him to be on KOHO 101 for his
Yes.
101st year. Can't let that go by, of
you
course.
cannot.
So.
I love it.
Shoes have changed over the years, and that's
Yes.
part of the legacy we want to ask you about first, I know, Josh.
For sure. The younger generation doesn't recognize that shoes used to be just a necessity. You had one pair of shoes. You wore that pair of shoes. You got it repaired. You wore it further. You got it cobbled together after it couldn't quite be repaired perfectly. You put little taps on the heels to keep them from wearing out. And now we throw away shoes like we throw away tissues or paper towels.
And you have some for all different occasions, I know, and we'll get into sort of the nuances of the shoe world here in just a little bit in more detail with you, Josh, as far as the modern tense is concerned. But I know we wanted to ask you about that legacy, first of all, those 101 years. Bring us up to speed, sort of in a linear fashion, if you will, about the start of the business and then you're taking it over, as you mentioned, 25 years ago.
Sure. We started on the corner of Palouse and Mission Street, just a block from where we're at now. That was started by Harry Crutcher. He opened up Crutcher's shoe repair parlor, which very shortly became American Shoe Shop. He ran that for a number of years. They outgrew the location on Palouse, and then they moved to Orondo Street, straight across from where McGlynn's is now. It's kind of fun. In some of our old pictures, you can see the Orondo Recreation sign in the background.
Great.
So it's every once in a while, we still have customers come in and say, I remember when you guys were on Orondo Street, and that was over 56 years ago.
Wow.
So
Wow.
there's some folks that still around to tell that tale, and we're so honored to still be able to serve them. Harry Crutcher had a son-in-law that worked for him, Al Parker. Al then purchased the business from Harry Crutcher, his father-in-law. He ran the business until the early 70s when Jim and Joanne Parker took that business over, Al's son, Jim. Then they moved the business, actually it was Al that moved the business to 118 North Wenatchee Avenue, just a few doors down from our current location where I started working. Started working there in 1991 for Jim and Joanne. I came over to Wenatchee to go to college, not knowing what I really wanted to do for life, but I knew Wenatchee was this magical place where you could ski the same day you could mountain bike, the same day you could go for a hike, you could be in the river. I had some other friends that had been to Wenatchee Valley College previously, and I said, well, I might as well give this a shot. Moved over here, and in the process of looking for a place to live, my mom and I noticed there was a shoe store downtown that had a table full of Birkenstocks on sale on the sidewalk. And I had worked at a Birkenstock store in high school, so we naturally thought, let's go check it out. Maybe you can get yourself some income to get you by while you're not in school. And went into the store, introduced myself, told them who I was, and I was moving into town soon to go to school. And I finally moved over here a month or two later and hadn't heard from them. So I went in to check in with Jim and Joanne again, and they were literally picking up the phone to call me as I walked in the door that day.
Serendipity.
So they immediately put me on a part-time schedule. And what we say now, the rest is history. Except for the fact that they decided not many years after that, 4 or 5 short years after they hired me, they decided that they were going to retire and sell me the place at 22 years old.
Wow.
Oh, my goodness.
I couldn't imagine any 22-year-old today that I would trust with a legacy business like what I fell into. I count my blessings every day that I get to go to work in a place I love so much and that has such a special place in the Valley.
I find it really interesting, Chris, before coming on this interview today, I did not know that the origin of the American Shoe Shop was Palouse and Mission, and the origin of the Wenatchee Valley Chamber of Commerce must have been right across the street on Palouse and Mission, which is where I started way back in the day, 8 years ago with them. That's where they were once again. And then here we are across the street, neighbors once again, the Chamber and American Shoe Shop. So that's really a fun story that I did not discover until we sat down today. So let's talk about that location in downtown and shopping local. That's been critical coming out of COVID, but you and your team, but especially you as the owner and visionary, you could say, for the business, made a very difficult decision not too long ago related to online sales. And how does that work for you all?
Well, I would not be so bold as to call it visionary, but I'm a relatively adaptive human being. And we went through the process of moving the business online, and I found that I'm stuck in the back room all day long. Mm-hmm. And I found out that I didn't enjoy that kind of work. And I found out that I would have people come in during that time and they'd say, "Where's Josh?" Well, he's in the back. He's working on the computer. And I missed just seeing my customers. Mm-hmm. So at that time, I realized that this doesn't work. Mm-hmm. It doesn't work for me. I don't want to have to open a warehouse somewhere else to manage all the online sales. And we made a conscious decision then that we are going to serve the customers that walk in our door. We're going to serve them as best we can in person and just really cultivate those relationships over growing a giant nationwide customer base. And it's been nothing but great for us. And we're fortunate to have the kind of business that is kind of like some of those industries like insurance or whatnot that is still in a town our size based on relationships. Mm-hmm. And that's brought us through a lot of tough times. It's brought us through a move. It's brought us through COVID, brought us through a lot of ups and downs. And it's because of those relationships that we've built over the years.
Josh Tarr with us today from American Shoe Shop, their owner, part of our Community Connections podcast series with legacy businesses, along with the Chamber's Shiloh Burgess, their executive director, here for that segment. Again, these are downloadable any place that you find your favorite podcasts or at our website, KOHO101.com. Chamber website has a link to it, of course, as well. So, Josh, as far as we got into footwear sort of through the ages earlier before digressing into your personal stake in the business and its history. So let's swing back to the footwear portion of it, because this seems like the kind of business that might be difficult to run for 100 years, or that would last for 100 years in anybody's hands. So as a shoe shop, you obviously sell shoes, but you also are still in the process of doing what cobblers and stuff used to do, repairing shoes and things of that nature. So tell us about how the product itself has changed over the course of even just your 25 years there.
You know, when I started working at the shop, it was not your typical shoe store. Shoe stores are categorized in a couple of different ways. The industry refers to athletic shoe stores as white shoe stores. There's brown shoe stores, which are more casual or dress shoes. And we don't fit any of those molds, and we never have. Being in a community this size, we found our niche in carrying what the people ask for and what we are passionate about. I love comfortable shoes, boots, socks. And so I've been blessed to, I guess, have somewhat of an eye or an understanding of what our customer base wants. We've been a Birkenstock dealer for 40 years now. So we sold Birkenstocks long before they were really popular, and we've watched these roller coasters with Birkenstock. We were also selling those right along work boots and hunting boots. And primarily that was kind of our business back then. The history of the shoe shop has been that they made much more of their income by repairing shoes. That was what kept them busy, what had a lot of people coming in and out of the shop much more often than you would just buying a pair of shoes. So, you'd have someone coming in once a month instead of once or twice a year. That business has changed a lot because shoes are not built to be repaired anymore. We still make a point of carrying anything and everything we can that is serviceable. Red Wing boots are a huge part of our product lineup, and a good bulk of their product is not only U.S. made, but also rebuildable. Birkenstocks, obviously, we can rebuild a Birkenstock like nothing else. That's one of our favorites to do because we've done them for so long. Over the years, I have been the main cobbler. I have hired my good friend now, Dustin Spencer, as a cobbler. And each of those have had kind of their tenure. I learned everything I learned about repairing shoes from Jim Parker and learned to repair any type of shoe. When Dustin took over, I taught him everything I knew. And then I started to learn things from him because he's just so incredibly brilliant. I'm so lucky to have had Dustin in my life all this time. So the business has certainly shifted with the times from more of an emphasis on repair to more of an emphasis on retail. Yet that history and legacy of the repair is what I think lends to some of our credibility today.
I think that's an important point, because oftentimes I think we take our footwear for granted until maybe we hit a certain milestone and we go, well, why is my back hurting or my knees aren't great? And the quality of footwear is really essential to our well-being, but we do like to have, that choice of being able to throw that pair of heels away or do that. But man, you get a nice pair of Birkenstock sandals on versus a flimsy pair of flip-flops from another retailer, will remain nameless, if you will, and your body's going to feel it and know it. And I think just having that knowledge, you may not be repairing it, but the knowledge of the shoe and the quality of the shoe and what to look for is really important. But it is exciting. I think we should talk about you've also incubated a couple of businesses within the business, if you will,
absolutely,
which is exciting. That's that diversification and adaptation that you're talking about. So yeah, what other things are happening down there in this shoe shop?
Well, one of my closest friends and coworkers for years, Dustin Spencer, like I said, he was my cobbler for years, but he'd always had a passion for creating leather goods. He would, what he would call, doodle often on the sewing machine, putting certain things together, building small bags and whatnot. And the time came, which was just a crusher to me, that he needed his freedom to be able to create. But I knew that Dustin had the potential to do amazing things. We released Dustin to fly into the amazing things that he's doing now. And when we moved 6 years ago into the former Packet-Right location where we are now, and so we moved Dustin's bag manufacturing company in with us at the shoe shop. It's called Vermiglia Pelle. Vermiglia is his mother's maiden name. Pelle is leather in Italian, and he has just blossomed. He builds some of the most beautiful leather and canvas bags imaginable, leather goods like belts, purses, and now they have started a second company called Tamarack Pack Works. Dustin is a avid mountain biker, and so he's now creating specialty packs for mountain biking.
Oh, that's awesome.
And Dustin is a complete nerd about materials. He has to build it out of the best leathers, everything down to the thread, the zippers, the packs that he's building for mountain biking, the handy pack, the Tamarack Packs handy pack. They now have this grassroots following where we have people coming out from all over coming to buy his bags, and he ships his leather and canvas bags all over the world right from our little shoe store.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, that is just incredible.
What a next addition to the legacy of the American Shoe Shop. So I'm just curious to know, having been a legacy, having been a young 22-year-old that took over a legacy business, what have been resources or key milestone help along the way? Like, what has helped you in this journey?
Well, over the years, people will throw out the term entrepreneur. I would 1,000% deny any entrepreneurial spirit in my life whatsoever. I am a creature of convenience. I was given the greatest gift I could ever have imagined, and still today I'm not realizing how amazing it is, from Jim and Joanne Parker, who trusted me with this business. Yet not only trusted me with it, they stuck around and worked with me for a number of years. And they are essentially, at that time, my real parents weren't living in Wenatchee. Yeah. They were also my Wenatchee parents. I still consider them that to this day. And I can't stress how much help I had along the way from them, their mentorship, their help in growing the business, and just they're role models on their own. If anybody has seen the latest articles about Jim Parker, and his health is not the best now, but he is known for just incredible selfless giving. If anybody's from Wenatchee, they know what a generous, incredible family the Parkers are. And I was obviously a beneficiary of that as well.
I think that's really important. Mentorship, having a role model, having someone to lean on, that's important for businesses and for young, budding professionals that may or may not want to call themselves entrepreneurs. And I think giving back, I think that's an important thing. I find that many of our local businesses have a niche in which they give back to their community because they're grateful for the community. They're grateful for those relationships. And I know this is not always something probably that is comfortable to talk about, but the Parkers did start a very important legacy in giving back in times of crisis. And the American Shoe Shop continues to do that. I'm not sure if you want to share about those good works, but I think it's important considering the landscape and environment that we are in. You guys have really helped meet some basic needs during struggling times, haven't you?
Yes. Before I'd purchased the business, I can remember many specific occasions when someone would come in the shop who was disheveled, tired, worn out, and Jim might have been busy sewing one of the shoes that we're working on. He'd say, just make sure this person gets whatever they need and there won't be any charge. And oftentimes that was a family who had lost everything they had in a fire the night before or that week. And that was something that always touched me and was something we've always tried to do as part of the legacy of American Shoe Shop. When the devastating wildfires hit in 2015, we had the opportunity to extend that in a much larger way and reach out to the entire community that had lost everything and just open it up, said, anybody needs anything that you need, footwear, socks, sandals. We had families where they still had soot on their faces coming in, and we were able to at least give them some shimmer of hope in a pretty awful situation. And, you know, sometimes I wonder, could these resources be used better? I know a lot of these folks have been insured and there's safety nets, but when you can get a smile on a kid's face, gets a pair of Birkenstocks after every pair of shoes they own burned up, get a pair of boots on someone so they can sift through the remains of what's left of their house. It's fulfilling in a strange way that you share that sadness with them, yet provide something simple that they need that might make a little difference for them at that time. So
it's a huge reminder of the importance of compassion, doing maybe what you think is a little thing, but it's an important thing. And it oftentimes sets off a chain of events for them, and just knowing that there are people in their community that care. And I think that's one of the things I love about my job, is getting to know many of these stories, Chris, and all the great things they're doing to give back to this community or invest in this community or encourage the creativity within their businesses to fly and find their own paths. It's really exciting. So thank you so much for sharing so much of your story. It's awesome.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be here and to hang out with you guys.
Yeah, it's great to have you here today, Josh. One last thing from me, probably the hardest question of the morning, no doubt. You've seen thousands and thousands and thousands of pairs of shoes over the years, and boots and footwear, etc. What's the coolest thing you've ever seen as far as that's concerned? I mean, I know tastes are different. They're subjective across the board, but generally something you had in your store that either you or your customers or both just went, wow. I mean, how cool is that?
We get to see some really cool things because people, for some reason, they trust us with, so we get to see a lot of family heirlooms. For example, I think one of my favorite things is not even footwear related, but we had a gentleman come in with his accordion, beautiful mother of pearl.
Wow.
And he needed a strap replaced on it. And we were able to do it with a simple piece of leather, a couple of rivets. And he asked us how much. And we said, well, we just love a song. And we still to this day, I think it might be somewhere on our Facebook page or something. He played us 2 or 3 different songs, and it was just one of everybody in the shop stopped, customers, we all gathered around this guy and just were able to listen to his music. And that was one of those many fun things that we get to see that's different from maybe what you'd see in a lot of other retail locations.
Wow.
So.
And the headline read "Strapped for Cash."
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah, for a song.
That's awesome. That's very good. Josh Tarr with us today from American Shoe Shop. The owner, been there for 25 years. American Shoe has been there for 101 years here in the Wenatchee Valley. At 126 North Wenatchee Avenue, that's American Shoe Shop and owner Josh Tarr, part of our Legacy Business Series, part of our series with the Wenatchee Valley Chamber of Commerce here on the Community Connections podcast series. These air as part of the KOHO Morning Show as well, and they're on demand as far as the podcasts are concerned. Any place you download your favorites, you can find them at our website, KOHO101.com, and there's a link at the Chamber's website as well. Josh, Shiloh, I appreciate the time very much. Thanks for everything, not only that you offered to us here today for this series, but also for everything you've done in the community for 25 years and / the 101 years as far as it's concerned, back all the way to the early days of American Shoe Shop. It's great to know that legacy businesses like yours are still around and making such a huge difference in our community. So thank you very much for that.
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Shiloh.
Thank you,
Chris.
Thanks for joining us for the KOHO 101 Community Connection Podcast, a look at business in the greater Wenatchee area.